Hello, and today we're going to start the last section of Chapter 8, and that's factoring by grouping. You guys are pretty familiar with this, because we've been factoring by grouping when we're factoring trinomials. So this should look somewhat familiar, but now we're doing it with polynomials that have a higher degree than 2. So they're not just quadratic polynomials anymore. They are now cubic polynomials, or 4th degree, or 5th degree, or 6th degree. Alright, so this problem right here says factor the following. And it's 3x cubed minus 12x squared plus 2x minus 8. And it's nothing new to do, but notice that there's 4 terms. So in order to solve this problem, but we're going to factor by grouping. We're going to group this into 2 binomials, and we're going to factor out the greatest common factor. So I'm looking at 3x cubed minus 12x squared. What's the greatest common factor of that binomial? Well, it's 3x squared, because 3 goes into 3 and 12, and x squared can go into x cubed and x squared. What am I left with then? 3x cubed divided by 3x squared, I'm left with x, and then minus 4. And I go to my other binomial, 2x minus 8. Well, I can factor out a 2 from this group, and what am I left with? X minus 4. So my final answer is going to be 3x squared plus 2 times x minus 4. And you see, you've done grouping before with factoring. Now we're just taking it to polynomials of a higher degree. And as you can tell, notice that's not 3x plus 2 times x minus 4. It's 3x squared plus 2 and x minus 4. The exponent with my variables in these 2 binomials are now different. X squared times x gives us x cubed. So try this one right now. 8x cubed plus 14x squared plus 20x plus 35. So if I factor by grouping, I get 8x cubed plus 14x squared. The greatest common factor of the coefficients of 8 and 14 is going to be 2. And of the variables, it's x squared. And I'm left with 4x plus 7. And over here, I can factor out a 5. 20 divided by 5 is 4x, and then 35 divided by 5 is plus 7. So my final answer is going to be 2x squared plus 5 times 4x plus 7. Alright, try this next one. 4y cubed plus 12y squared minus y minus 3. Be careful, this one's a little tricky. Okay, so I'm going to group the 2 binomials. So 4y cubed plus 12y squared. Well, in this one, I can factor out a 4y squared, and then I'm left with y plus 3. The negative y minus 3, I can factor out a minus 1, and I'm left with y plus 3. So my final answer is 4y squared minus 1 times y plus 3. If you had this as your final answer, I would not give you full credit. Like, wrong, because I can keep factoring 4y squared minus 1. That right there is a perfect square. Perfect. I'm sorry. This is a difference of squares right here. 4y squared minus 1. Sorry. Skip my mind for a second. 4y squared minus 1. I can break this down into 2y plus 1 and 2y minus 1. So your correct final answer would be 2y plus 1 times 2y minus 1 times y plus 3. Okay, so be careful when you're factoring these. I understand that you guys might know how to do the process really well, but it's recognizing polynomials that can be broken down and factored more, which is the true key to success when you're doing this. Because many of you, I'm sure, left it as 4y squared minus 1 times y plus 3. But being able to recognize that 4y squared minus 1 is the difference of squares, and you can factor it down more, that shows that you truly understand how to factor out down a polynomial. Okay, so be careful of that. Maybe make a note, mental note, as well as a note in your notes to break down as far as you can. Some sort of signal, a way for you to remember to keep going and to be aware of binomials or polynomials that can be broken down further. Alright, so let's look at this one. We have 4w to the fourth minus 8w cubed plus 12w squared minus 24w. Before you start factoring this, remember the first thing that we should always look for is see if we can pull a term out. So if I look at this, factoring out my coefficients, I can factor out a 4w from this polynomial. And when I do that, I'm left with w cubed minus 2w squared plus 3w minus 6. And now break down w cubed minus 2w squared plus 3w minus 6. Well, I'm going to use a different pen. Use red. I'm going to group these as such. And I'm left with 4w. And then w cubed minus 2w squared, I can factor out a w squared, and I'm left with w minus 2. And then over here I can factor out a 3, and I'm left with w minus 2. So my final answer is going to be 4w, because that's what gets brought down, times w squared plus 3 times w minus 2. That's your final answer. Okay, so try this one on your own. 6m to the fourth plus 9m cubed plus 12m squared plus 18m. Pause the video and do this on your own. Alright, so I'm going to see what I can factor out, and it looks like I can factor out a 3m. By doing that, I'm left with 2m cubed plus 3m squared plus 4m plus 6. And then I break that down more, and I get 3m, and then 2m cubed plus 3m squared, I can factor out an m squared. And I'm left with 2m plus 3. And then over here I can factor out a 2 from 4m plus 6, and I'm left with 2m plus 3. Factoring these two gives me this. Factoring these two gives me that. So my final answer then is going to be 3m times m squared plus 2 times 2m plus 3. Alright, our last one deals with a rectangular prism. And it says a rectangular prism has a volume of 4x cubed plus 12x squared plus 5x. What are the dimensions of the prism? First things first, we are talking about volume. Therefore, I know I'm going to have 3 dimensions. So my final answer, I should have 3 polynomials being multiplied. So 4x cubed plus 12x squared plus 5x. So my volume, and I need to break it down. What are the dimensions of this prism? Well, first things first, in any polynomial, if we're trying to break it down, I can factor out a term right away, and that's x. By doing this, I'm left with 4x squared plus 12x plus 5. And then I need to break down 4x squared plus 12x plus 5. So now I'm going to break this trinomial down as I know. 4 times 5 is 20. I need factors of 20 that add up to 12. And that's going to be 10 and 2. So if I rewrite this, it's x times 4x squared plus 2x plus 10x plus 5. And then I group accordingly, and I break these down by factoring out a monomial from each of them. And the first one I can factor out 2x, and I'm left with x, or 2x plus 1, sorry. For my second term, I can factor out a 5, and I'm left with 2x plus 1. And so my final answer is going to be x times 2x plus 1 times 2x plus 5. And that's going to be my final answer because I have 1, 2, 3 dimensions. So therefore, I found my answer. So I hope that you found this video helpful. There is no quiz. If you have any questions, please ask me, and I will talk to you later. Bye, guys.